Scarbs, good to see you. What do you make of the Renault protest of the Racing Point, brake ducts specifically?
I think we were kind of expecting some kind of a protest or something more than just a verbal complaint at some stage. Odd that it came at the second race of the year, but then again, obviously, teams keep these protests up their sleeves for when it gives them the maximum benefit. Obviously, for Daniel Ricciardo, having slightly less racing points in front of him would be very good. But it's very interesting. And it goes back to lots of the questions that we've had since we first saw the Racing Point released. They've admitted that they have copied the Mercedes, and they've copied it by looking at the car, taking pictures, replicating the aero. And the aero extends to the brake ducts, and this is the specific area that Renault are protesting. So this actually tells us perhaps a little bit about what's going on. You could have looked at any part of that car and thought, there's definitely something going on here with the copying. Maybe they're getting data from Mercedes, maybe they're getting molds for the carbon fiber parts from Mercedes. Racing Point and Mercedes are quite clear that has never happened. But Renault have chosen to look at specifically the front and rear brake ducts, which, as with every other part of the aero, looks very much like the Mercedes from last year, and some aspects of it actually also look like the Racing Point from last year. So the question then lies is what exactly is going on with these brake ducts? What does Renault think so important about this specific area? Now, it could be, again, as we've said before, they've just copied them very closely. What's interesting about brake ducts in particular is last season in 2019, they were considered part of the non-listed part, so you could buy them in. So Haas, for example, bought Ferrari's brake ducts. That was quite legal. Now they're considered part of the aero package, part of the bodywork, and therefore every team has to manufacture and design their own. So this is where some of the question marks are coming in. So either Racing Point have just copied it very well, in which case it's all totally legal and Renault have got no basis for their protest, or perhaps they have taken some intellectual property direct from Mercedes, maybe the molds, maybe the design data, and then manufactured their parts for the 2020 car. And that, on the face of it, would appear to be illegal. The only thing then is, and that would be a pretty stupid thing for both Mercedes, for their reputation, and for Racing Point, knowing the legal problems that their approach this year could potentially have brought them. It seems silly that they would make a mistake just on brake ducts. So then maybe brake ducts are an area where they think they've got a legal loophole. And someone actually pointed out to me today on Twitter is, well, perhaps it was that these were last year's Mercedes brake ducts, and therefore the intellectual property can pass because obviously it's into a separate year. I get a bit confused by this argument, but there could be some kind of a legal interpretation of the regulations that in 2020, if you're running somebody's old brake ducts, therefore it's not an issue. What's happened now is that the FIA have taken the Racing Point brake ducts. They have asked Mercedes for some of their 2019 brake ducts, and they will compare the two and find out exactly what's going on. And this is going to take a little while, I would imagine. So they're going to be racing with this over their head for a few races yet to come. Normally, the FIA works very slowly with these sorts of things. The outcome could be that Racing Point does nothing wrong, and they keep all of the points from these past very successful races that they've been having, particularly this weekend in Austria. Or it could be that the FIA think that there's something wrong here, in which case then Racing Point will lose the points from their first races. Potentially Mercedes could have some kind of a penalty as well, a fine perhaps, or some kind of wrapping over the knuckles for releasing their intellectual property to a rival, knowing that it's not within the regulations. So this is going to be a bit of a longer, slower burn story, this one, to find out exactly what happens in the end. My gut feel is that there's nothing overtly illegal going on with Racing Point. Again, it's not in their interest. It's not the way they've ever gone racing in the past. It could be, as I said, one of these very much more fine legal points, or that they've done nothing wrong at all. We'll just have to wait and see how that shakes out. But in the meantime, we can enjoy, this level of performance that the Racing Point has had over these first two races this year.